What is going on, Governors? Chisgule here, and today we're going to do a full commander guide on Guan Yu, who very recently became available in Rise of Kingdoms, and they are a total beast. My friends, welcome. You know the drill. When we do a commander guide, we review the skills, the talents, how you unlock the commander, the sequence in which you should level up the skills, and last but not least, in fact, my favorite, is the pairings and the theory behind it. Now, at the tail end of this video, spoiler alert, we're going to spin the wheel for Guan Yu, so you're going to want to stick around for that. Now, if you like commander guides, please do like and subscribe, because we've got a guide on just about every commander, and we'll have a guide on every commander very soon. We've also got a playlist on that topic. We're a sponsored creator with Rise of Kingdoms. Let's get right into it. The thing that makes this commander busted, crazy, fun, and powerful is the first skill. It does area of effect damage, upwards of a damage factor of 2,000 to 3 targets, silencing those targets for 3 seconds, which is insanely powerful. Now, how does silence work? They can still generate rage, but they can't use their active skills. Now, what that effectively means is if they would have used their active skill, they just sit there at full rage instead. So you are denying them damage and rage generation by virtue of holding them at their max rage when they've accomplished that, making them unable to fire off their skill, assuming the timing of your silence works with when they were going to use an active skill. It's incredibly powerful. Now, if they're the secondary commander, that damage factor of 2,000 is cut in half and it's 1,000, and there's really no upside to using this commander as a secondary. Basically, we've got a commander here with a restriction. I tend to like commanders that have restrictions because it means they're better at other things. They're better at being a primary. They're really not compelling as a secondary. As of this moment, I see no reason to use Guan Yu as a secondary commander in Rise of Kingdoms. Let's continue on to the next skill. When attacking garrisons, increase normal attack damage by an upwards of 15%, and normal attacks have a 10% chance to reduce a single target's attack by 30% for 3 seconds. Now, you'll notice here that the garrison part and the not garrison part are in 2 different sentences. My alliance members went out and tested this skill, and they couldn't find any evidence of the second half of the skill, that 10% proc, happening outside of the garrison. So I'm pretty sure that this skill is 100% oriented toward garrison only. Let's continue to the next skill, which is, oh man, I can't read that. The slaying of Hua Song? Oh, I don't know. Increase infantry units attack by an upwards of 30% and march speed by an upwards of 15%. Upon leaving the battle, you heal a portion of your slightly wounded units an upwards of 1,000, which is a pretty moderate amount of healing. I think this is really obviously powerful in the open field, but even just the 30% infantry attack is solid. Let's continue on. The next skill, Green Dragon Crescent Blade, makes it so that if you hit one target only with his active skill, there is a 50% chance to do an additional 1,000 damage factor. That is massive. That is a huge amount of damage. When the target, when the first skill hits more than one target, so 2 or more targets, there's a 50% chance that you deal 1,400 damage factor to the current target. Huge. So basically what this means is this commander is geared out towards doing area of effect damage. Not only does their active skill hit up to 3 targets, however, the 4th skill makes it so that if you're hitting more targets, you get more damage onto the primary target, potentially, which is very powerful. Now, of course, it's worth mentioning that on this first skill, as is the case with other legendaries, when you hit more targets, you do 15% less damage for each target hit, but the total damage is still going way up because you're hitting more targets. The final skill, the expertise skill, is Lone Rider. This one I find somewhat underwhelming, but interesting. Whenever Guan Yu gains a shield, also increase the active skill damage by 15% for 3 seconds. And whenever Guan Yu leaves a structure, increases march speed by 100% for 3 seconds. So this is really interesting if you can find a way to get shield, and we'll talk about that in the pairing portion of this video. And the march speed is really compelling if you're navigating from city to city. P.S. I'll have a card up in the top in the Kingdom 1507 Civil War videos where we were doing a lot of that style of navigation, so you can get a sense of what that looks like. Let's go and get a look at the talents that you could put onto this commander. Although we don't have them leveled up yet, we do have a few builds cooked up, more than usual, and a few diagrams to show them with this commander who's got infantry, conquering, and the skill tree. Now, in terms of the talents, there's a few things of note that we will talk about when I put these diagrams up onto the screen. The first is Rejuvenate, which is generating a huge amount of rage every time an active skill is used. This is a commander that wants to generate a lot of rage so they can use their active skill more and keep those targets silenced. For that reason, I really like Feral Nature on this commander, which generates more rage. There's a 10% chance to get 100 rage when this skill is maxed. Now, in the infantry tree, there are a few things that I want to talk about that are really compelling. One of those is Hold the Line. When the army led by this commander contains only infantry, it gives troops a 10% chance to reduce the damage taken by an upwards of 20% for the next 2 seconds after being attacked, which is really powerful. This, I believe, is activating when you're being attacked. So if your army is getting swarmed, there's a lot of benefit here. There's an increased chance of this proccing, because it should be a 10% chance to proc for every one of those targets hitting you. It might not work that way. It might just be every round that you're hit, which makes it less compelling, but still very good. The next talent that is worth calling out is Strong of Body. I like this because for 3 talent points, you get 6% of stats, all health, and that is unusually good for talent points. One other key talent that we're going to talk about in these next few builds is Entrenched. For 3 talent points, you're increasing all damage dealt to strongholds by 3%, and all damage taken from strongholds is reduced by 3%. That is very effective for 3 points. Normally in the leadership tree, you're paying like 6 points to get that. And what's along the way to get it is okay too. Moment of Triumph gives you benefit when your army's 90% or higher, which is not so great for a rally. However, Buckler Shield is decent, reducing the counterattack damage that you take by 9%. One other talent of note here that we do need to talk about is both Clarity and All for One, which makes it so that if you're using the skill tree on this commander, you're really going to benefit if you have a secondary commander that is doing a lot of damage too. Let's go to the builds now. Okay, we've prepared 4 builds for you, and they serve different purposes. This is an open field build. You actually get every single point in the infantry tree, which is very, very powerful for giving you march speed. There are many talents on the right-hand side of the tree that give you march speed that you really only care about for the open field. And really, this is most beneficial in Ark of Osiris, when if you're going to use this commander in the open field, you are going to have to traverse great distances. We also, of course, pick up Rejuvenate, and underneath that, Heraldic Shield, and the talent that increases your skill damage dealt. I believe it's 3% skill damage dealt, and reduce the skill damage you take by 6% from Heraldic Shield. Rounding out this build, you generate rage, and you have all the march speed from the infantry tree so you can get around the battlefield. I think this is a pretty solid open field build for this commander if you gotta really hoof it. A more interesting open field build and Sunset Canyon build is as follows. You pick up nearly every point in the skill tree, so you get the rage generation over here in addition to what you're getting from Rejuvenate. You're also buffing the damage of a secondary commander from several of these skills. So again, worth calling out. 2 commanders that do skill damage is very important. Guan Yu needs to be the primary because they do so much more damage that way. And then we pick up a bunch of talents in the infantry tree that we had talked about previously as being really compelling. On the right-hand side of that is 9 rage gen, I believe every time you attack, it might be when you're attacked, and then also 9% of extra damage dealt to cavalry, which seems like a pretty good pickup to me these days with Attila and Takeda running around. The reason I like this build for Canyon is that we've removed all of the march speed related talents from the right-hand side of the infantry tree. We've also removed the upper right-hand talent of the infantry tree, which has a chance for you to slow an enemy. We really don't care about that in Sunset Canyon, and you might not even care about that in the open field if you're running a murder ball that has other ways to slow stuff. This, I think, is the build I'm most likely to use on this commander if what I'm doing is primarily Sunset Canyon. However, if what you're doing is rallying stuff, we've got some really interesting options for you. One of these is to use, again, the skill tree as we've been advising. However, we also go and get Strong of Body in the infantry tree, and we run down to get the talents in the Conquering tree that make it so you do extra damage and take less damage from strongholds. I think those are really powerful talents, and this is definitely a build that would be worth testing. It's possible that the Sunset Canyon build is also the best rally build, but this might be a build that could beat it. We also pick up the talent that looks like an axe in the infantry tree, which increases your normal attack damage by 1.5%. We had 3 extra points and we weren't sure where to put them. It could be that you might want to drop them into the heart talent in the infantry or in the skill tree, which would give you a boost to additional skill damage. It also could be that you want the talent, the other talent that we didn't choose in this tree that looks like a hand, that is going to make it so you do 6% extra damage, but you take 6% extra damage. I generally don't like talents that work like that for rallies because you could get swarmed and that could really work against you in a very negative way. Continuing on to the last build, and this build has 2 talent points remaining. I didn't know where to put them, although there's some places we could talk about. This build skips out doing the full skill tree in favor of spending more points into the infantry tree. We're able to get the anti-cavalry talents, a little bit of rage gen, and then also some of that anti-swarm technology. I don't know that I would say this is better than the full skill tree, especially because we're trying to silence stuff, and AoE, when you're launching a rally, is really powerful in controlling where the enemy can be in the open field. So the more that you can do that by generating more rage, the better, especially because we're trying to silence stuff. So I would say this is probably not my favorite build, but it's a variation that we certainly thought was worth calling your attention to. Let's go get a look at how you unlock this commander. Guan Yu is available in the Wheel of Fortune, and that's the only way to get him at this time, and you've got to be in a really old kingdom for him to appear at all. He is in the wheel rotation after you've already completed Takeda, and Takeda comes after you've already completed Edward of Woodstock, and Edward of Woodstock was after you completed Alexander the Great, and Alexander the Great was after you completed Khan, and, this goes on and on, right? So it's a pretty far along commander to see show up for you. So to get this commander, you've got to be in a pretty old kingdom. Again, if you ever want to see where a commander comes from, you can tap into the skills button and hit the plus sign. You can see here, Universal Sculptures and the Wheel of Fortune are the only way. As a reminder, we're going to spin the Wheel of Fortune at the end of this video. The other way you could see, by the way, where a commander comes from if you haven't unlocked any of their sculptures is to hit the little plus sign over here. It'll tell you, in this case, actually, it doesn't. This commander is available right now in the Mighty Governor. Whatever, it's fine. So let's now talk about pairings, because I think there is some really cool stuff you can do here. First and foremost, of course, we're going to start with the best. Leonidas is, in my opinion, the slam dunk pick as a pairing. These commanders were released together with Leonidas in the Mighty Governor and Guan Yu in the Wheel. The reason I think that this pairing is very powerful is because of their synergy. Leonidas wants targets to be silenced to double his damage. Well, guess what? Guan Yu silences things. Guan Yu wants shields to boost his damage. Guess what? Leonidas does exactly that. I think as a pairing, these two are really powerful. The only thing I question about Leonidas is the expertise skill, but that's the topic for a Leonidas video. If we continue onward, I think that if you used Guan Yu primary with Isong secondary and brought full infantry, you'd be in a really great position. This third skill cares about archers, but also just generates a lot of rage, and for that reason, it could be very powerful. The circle AoE is very, very powerful, and the elevated active skill damage is really spectacular. The other reason I really like the rage generation here is that Guan Yu is trying to do a silence chain of sorts if you can. You're trying to get those silences going very, very quickly. The rage gen, huge, huge, huge. This pairing could be very, very exceptional. Continuing onward, I don't like Richard I as a pairing. That is because you want two commanders that do a lot of skill damage. That's not what you're getting from Richard I, even though he would give this march a whole heck of a lot of sustain. There's no rage gen here. I don't think this is where we want to be hunting. The next commander we can talk about is Charles Martel. Now, Charles Martel is going to put up a shield, but I think the timing of that shield is always going to be in a way that you're not going to have enough rage to get Guan Yu to use an active skill when he's got the 15% bonus damage available from the expertise skill. I do think they're a fine pairing, but not great. Once again, I do feel like we're looking for commanders that both leverage the fact that we're doing a lot of damage, and so that we can go all in on the skill tree if possible. In the open field, I do think they would be an interesting pairing, given that they've got a lot of sustain and disruption. However, again, I think there's more compelling stuff out there. Alexander the Great is a really interesting consideration here. Alexander the Great is fine, but again, I want to say not amazing because he's not doing active skill damage. This is the case with many infantry. We're sort of entering into a new frontier where the infantry are doing huge skill damage, of course, with the exception of Sun Tzu, who we'll talk about in a moment. Now, Alexander the Great does provide a shield. However, as I mentioned before, the timing of that shield is going to be really awkward. The way that works, by the way, we can do a quick breakdown. Guan Yu is going to use the active skill. There's going to be a second of downtime. Then Alexander the Great's going to use his active skill, applying the shield. Then the only way in which Guan Yu is going to still benefit from the 15% extra active skill damage is if he were to attack within the next 3 turns. So if he's attacking on the 6th turn, he'd get the benefit, but you're not generating that much rage on Guan Yu, so I don't think that's going to work. I don't think you're going to get the benefit there. You're much better off with an Alexander the Great somewhere on the field, hopefully providing a shield to the army that has Guan Yu in it, because Guan Yu's army is the weakest nearby. I think that the rest of what's going on here is, in fact, really powerful. However, I think we can still do better. Of course, that better is Leonidas. Now, one really interesting pair is Freddy. I really like Freddy as a pairing with Guan Yu. I think there's a little bit lacking here because I would love to see Rage Gen at all on Freddy or on Guan Yu to amplify what Freddy is doing, but I'll call out the fact that the extra troops here means that you'll have a more tanky march that does more damage with your active skills, and that the active skill on Freddy is huge and will benefit really profoundly from the elevated skill damage offered from the skill tree. I think this pairing could be really interesting, and I do like the healing here, if only there were a commander that did a shield instead. Let's get a look at Mehmed II. Now, this is another commander that I actually think would be phenomenal as a pair in the open field. Huge AoE damage. And actually, for rallying cities, this might become the new very best combo in the game. Will be a Guan Yu primary, Mehmed secondary. I love that there is a boost here to the attack and the active skill damage, which Guan Yu really cares about, and elevating the number of troops you can bring is quite consequential. You, again, are able to tank more and dish out more damage by virtue of having more troops on the field. This commander is really solid. I imagine these two paired together in Sunset would tear things up. Continuing onward, I don't think Constantine is a great pairing. Constantine doesn't do active skill damage, and you really don't want to use Guan Yu as a secondary. This commander would be really good with Alexander the Great as a secondary, Constantine and Alexander the Great, but I don't think that Constantine is a great pair with Guan Yu. There is one last legendary that we need to talk about here, which is Charlemagne, and this is the surprise pick. Is it cute? Is it good? I think it might just be cute, but let me just walk through why this combination could be really good. There is active skill damage, although this is much lower than I would expect to see. As you saw on Freddy the First, Freddy's got 2,400, active skill damage when he's expertised. I suppose that's unfair to compare to an expertise commander. You could look at a commander like, I don't know, let's pick Khan. Khan's got 1,700 active skill damage and no flair, no extra fluff to the ability. So 1,700 is kind of the baseline I would expect here. We don't get it, and there's no upside. I don't understand why that's the case. This is not as good, but this is busted. While on the map, all troops under this commander have a 10% chance to gain a shield when they are attacked. The shield lasts for 4 seconds and can take a large amount of damage factor of 1,000. This shield could happen at a time when it boosts the active skill damage of Guan Yu, and I see no internal cooldown on this ability. If there is in fact no internal cooldown, which means if the army is getting swarmed, you could have this proc on one turn, the shield get consumed, and then proc on the next turn, that could be really, really busted and very strong with a Guan Yu pairing if you are rallying stuff. The third skill here is increasing your rally attack and defense by a total of 10% for each of those. You're getting some extra skill damage, which you definitely want for Guan Yu. And unfortunately, this last one is only oriented towards cities. So it could be that Guan Yu with a Charlemagne could be pretty nuts for hitting a city, actually. Surprise! You didn't see that one coming, did you? I do love the idea of bringing new commanders into the game that make old commanders more relevant. I think Charlemagne is highly underutilized as a commander because, frankly, he's got a really narrow range of possibility space for where he's good. I do love the idea of new commanders coming in that could breathe life into older commanders by virtue of their design. Now, at the epic tier, there are some commanders that you should absolutely be considering. Of course, my number one pick at the epic tier for you is going to be Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu is doing literally everything that we want in a commander that is going to pair with Guan Yu. He's generating rage. He's doing tons of damage. He's elevating the skill damage that Guan Yu is going to do, and he's even reducing the amount of damage that Guan Yu is going to take. I love this pairing. I think that the Guan Yu Sun Tzu pairing could be one of the very best Guan Yu pairings short of using Leonidas in Sunset Canyon and Lost Canyon, because the AoE and silencing is just going to be catastrophic and effective. Continuing onward, I think that Boudica is a surprisingly effective pick. She is generating rage and she is increasing the damage that you deal, which could be pretty busted with Guan Yu. I love this pairing. I think it's quite good and is totally on plan. Otherwise, I think that Osman is just okay, but not spectacular. It's kind of the same boat as Freddy. I wish that Freddy had Rage Gen. He doesn't. Osman is going to offer less sustain than Freddy will, so I think this pairing is fine, but not spectacular. And of course, Ulji Mundak is a decent pairing with a bunch of anti-swarm technology and the opportunity and promise of boosting your damage profoundly and then hitting them with an active skill and also the fourth skill on Guan Yu. This could be a catastrophic boost to damage that is very powerful, and the expertise skill here offering you some stats, which I think is pretty decent in general to boost your defense and also your attack. Okay, let's now go and talk briefly about how you skill up this commander, and then we'll go spin the wheel. Now, when you're skilling up Guan Yu, you absolutely want to max out the first skill. Do not proceed starring up this commander until you max the first skill. From there, I like to go all the way up to the fourth skill being unlocked before you apply any more skill points, because most of you are not going to use this commander to hit garrisons, so you want to reduce the chance that you land your skills on the second one, which is increasing your effectiveness against garrisons. You want them to land on the third and fourth skills. All right, my friends, let's go now and spin the Guan Yu wheel. Let's get this party started. We've got a 50% off spin, and we are going to max spin this commander. You've seen my prior videos where I talk about whether or not you should spend gems in the VIP shop. on legendary commander sculptures versus spinning the wheel. The answer is if you want the commander, you should just spin the wheel. And I'll try to get a card up in the top for that one so you can find that video if you want to go and see it. We got one Guan Yu sculpture there and 4 stars, which is pretty great. Continuing on, another Guan Yu sculpture, a universal sculpture is a solid pickup. We almost got the 8 spot, but we didn't. Some speed ups instead, and, well, I mean, I'll take the 90 hours of generic speed ups that we got there. Those universals are pretty solid. Hopefully at some point we get some use for those building speed ups, and at the 70 mark, we are getting 10 more universal legendary commander sculptures. Now, as I spin this wheel, it's worth mentioning, should you expertise a commander like Guan Yu right away? I'm going to say absolutely not. I would wait for the max number of Guan Yu wheels to happen so that you can get their sculptures in a value-oriented way. Speaking of value, boom, baby! That spin was amazing. 9 legendary commander sculptures and 2 of the 4 8-hour speed ups, and also another 45 hours of universals. Whew, that spin is hot. Again, should you expertise Guan Yu? The answer is no. Wait for all the wheels to come out so you can get him in a value-oriented way. There is an exception, however. If you are at war, and if somebody else has uncovered that Guan Yu is the absolute best choice for a rally, and you are that rally leader, then and only then would I recommend that you expertise Guan Yu. By the way, Value Town. We got 9 more sculptures over here, baby. 8 Guan Yu and a universal and 4 stars. Hot damn, that's a sweet spin. So in my opinion, you should not expertise Guan Yu. Be patient, wait. Could you level him up to 60 and start using him in Sunset Canyon? It is entirely possible that at 5-1-1-1, at level 60, he would be an amazing asset in Sunset Canyon. We may go that route. To be determined. We are right now saving our resources, and by resources I mean stars, experience, and universal sculptures, so that we can, as I was just describing, panic expertise any commander that proves to be absolutely vital to our KVK efforts. We'll see if that ends up even being a thing or relevant, but if it does become relevant, we will have, I think we've got like, what, 130 or 1,030, 1,040-ish universal commander sculptures for that task. So we could expertise a pair of commanders even if we wanted. Now, this was a great spin too for Guan Yu. And I rhymed and I didn't mean to, but gosh darn it, that was awesome. 2 more Guan Yu sculptures. And there's the universal. Holy moly. Wow, 4 legendary commander sculptures in this spin. 5! Woo, baby! 5 legendary commander sculptures in that spin. I mean, where are the emojis for getting to Value Town? Holy jeez. Holy jeez. And we've got, man, we're killing it. 15 more sculptures over here. We're putting skills onto this commander. I'll show you exactly how we do it. Let's spin a few more times. I suppose I'll break my rule about experience and stars to bring this commander to 4 stars. I feel fine about that choice. I want to be able to start slow leveling this commander right away. Here we go with, all right, 2 universals and a Guan Yu. That is spectacular. We'll keep it spinning. Between getting a Guan Yu sculpture and a universal, you're much better off with the universal because obviously that can be applied to any commander. So between the two, it's actually the universal that is the better grab, even though we are really enjoying these spins and we love getting those Guan Yu sculptures. We've got 10 more spins before we go apply the huge amount of sculptures that we just obtained. Feeling really good about where we have ended up with these spins. Even if these spins are not so spectacular, these last spins, the earlier ones were so good that it just does not even matter. Here we go with some training speed ups and 1 more Guan Yu. For a second, I thought we got the 8 spot again. For a second, I thought it had happened, but it did not. It did not. We got 2 more Guan Yu sculptures and some speed ups and some stone. I mean, these spins were really quite fantastic. And now let's go in and put these skills onto our good friend Guan Yu. We've got 62 total sculptures to work with. We'll apply 15 and then 15 more, and we still have enough to get one more skill onto Guan Yu after we've leveled him up. And you can see here we've got 1,038 universal sculptures at our disposal. Let's head back over here and let's apply our tomes of knowledge. We're going to use these to take him to 4 stars. So we'll get to level 8, 9, and 10. Again, I don't feel bad about spending some tomes here because if we're going to start using them in Sunset Canyon, and we might do that honestly like right away, if we are going to do that, then we're going to need to take them to level 60 anyways. This is a commander that needs to be a primary. All right, so now we're going to drop some stars on, hit develop. Fantastic. We unlock the next skill such that we can apply more experience tomes, taking him up to level 20. After we've done that, we'll apply stars, and theoretically, we could use a combination of our special stars to try to avoid putting as much experience onto him. So for instance, this particular move right here is a huge amount of experience. I actually don't think that this would be enough for me. I don't think it would quite be enough. I think we would need to like put a star onto him and hope we get, you know, a crit, I guess. I don't know. Let's just do it the old-fashioned way. I'm not worried about the tiny amount of experience it's going to take to bring him to level 30. And the reason that I'm not worried about that is that the amount of experience it takes to level up a commander obviously scales up as you're leveling them up. So going from level 20 to 30 is much less than 30 to 40, which is much less than 40 to 50, which is much less than 50 to 60. So now we've got this commander at level 30. We're going to apply our stars. This is going to take a few more stars to make this happen. However, we got a lucky crit there. We'll smash that button a couple times, make this go a little bit faster. Hitting the develop button twice does do 2 runs of that addition of sculptures. And we're going to go for the value addition of sculptures, assuming we're going to take this commander all the way up to our 6 stars in the not too distant future. There we go. Now we can apply this skill, and it is really the last skill that I want this to land on, I think. I also do really like this for the open field, and the attack boost. I mean, 5% attack is good, but I don't know. Which one is better, the 100 damage factor on the active skill or the 5% attack all the time? They're both great. As long as it doesn't land here, we are super winning. So let's see how this goes. We're super winning. We got now 5% extra attack, 3% extra march speed, and a little bit of extra boost when we leave combat. A Guan Yu primary could be really quite spectacular for a murder ball. And let me reword that and say a Guan Yu primary will be absolutely spectacular in a murder ball where you might even be leaving combat to get that healing factor. Yeah, this is going to be really powerful as a commander, and I will be shocked if we do not use them. I am somewhat shocked we're not yet using Takeda. It could be that this is a commander that we really need to go and invest in, but we're holding off for now on our Attila Takeda, which we could expertise both of them if we wanted to, because then we will be drained on sculptures, and we just want to see, is there something better in the short term that we need to do? This commander, perhaps? This commander? Again, I think it's better to just wait for the wheels. We'll see what we end up doing. I would not be shocked if I end up with a Garrison Commander expertise coming out of this KVK, or even Attila Takeda as a rally pair. Heck, or even Tamaris. It's possible we expertise Tamaris and use Edward and Tamaris to just go totally ham on cities. We'll see. But now I'm veering off topic. If you enjoyed this video about Guan Yu, the Lord of the Magnificent Beard, then please do like and subscribe. If you want to see this commander in action, we will definitely have that for you. And until next time, You have fun smashing the kingdom.